Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Otis Wellborn here with TWE Men's Group, also known as Together We Evolve. And this is a community where we come together, and I come with relevant content to touch bases and go over with guys, because I feel like, as men, we need an outlet. We need somewhere where we can connect with people, talk about real life things, and help us get further in life by just discussing real life relevant information. So today I want to talk about transition. Transitioning. Okay, so um, me personally, I have been going through a lot of transitions here lately. I'm in the process of moving from Ohio to Houston. And so by doing so, um, it requires a lot of transitioning from one place to another, right? And so, to go even deeper with this thing, I wanted to go over a definition of the word transition. So, it says the word transition means the process or a period of changing from one state or condition to another. What really stands out to me in there is the word process. The word process. It says the process or a period of changing, right? So then I decided to look up the word process. The word process says the definition is a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. So let's break that down. So, in other words, if you're transitioning, you are going through a process, which is a series of actions and steps taken with a particular end or goal in mind while changing from one state to another, which means you got to have preparation, right? And so, my question to you guys, if God's put you in a situation where you feel like you're in a transition right now, what are you doing to prepare for your transition? What are you doing to what are the actions or the steps that you're putting in place right now to get through your process? What does your process look like? Does your process feel uncomfortable? I know it feels very uncomfortable for me because I'm essentially moving from one state to another, leaving family and friends behind and occupation behind, to go to another state, and so that could be uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable sometimes, right? And so let's talk about that. Let me give you an example. I was thinking about transitions, right? So, in my first house, I remember installing a floor, right? And so on one side, there was a vinyl plank floor, but on the other side, there was carpet. And I remember installing a transition strip in between both floors. Now, what was unique about it, again, one was a vinyl plank floor and one was a carpet. Now, both are floors, but both are two different things, right? And the interesting thing about it, there was a door in between the flooring, okay? And so, the thing that I really want to point out that I felt like God showed me in this example is that when you're in the process of transitioning, there needs to be a door. Okay. So in other words, I would need to open that door or have a door open for me. And then I see the transition strip. And in order for me to make a step over that threshold onto the new surface, I gotta, make sure that I have everything in place. So that when I walk from one surface to the next, I gotta keep in mind that I gotta close the door behind me. Right? And I know this is gonna go over somebody's head, but I need y'all to hear me again. A door opens, you're taking the proper steps to go through this door. And in the process, you're going over a transition strip from one type of flooring to a new type of flooring. Okay, let's break that down. So here's another example. So let's talk about that for a second. What door is God trying to open in your life that you gotta make a transition and make the proper steps to step through that door and know that you're going to close the door behind. Think about that. What are some of the things that you got to leave behind, right? When you transition, it's like moving. Let's think about moving for a second, right? When preparing to move, I'm going to have to move at some point. Okay. That means that I'm going to have to take some clothes and declutter them. And that means that some of my things I'm going to have to pack and take with me. But obviously, everything it can't come with me because I'm looking to downsize, right? So, in order to downsize and prepare for my transition, this is my process. My process, the right actions and steps to get those things in place to get over that threshold is I got to declutter and I got to pack a few things, right? So, what is some of those declutter type of things in your life that you won't be able to take with you when you transition over that threshold into your new? What are some of those things? Because obviously you can't take it with you, right? Think about carrying a big bag, and if I take all these books and everything behind me and I put it in a big bag, it's going to be heavy, right? Or what about if I just decide I'm just going to take 5 books? Now my load is not so heavy. But if I take all these books behind me and everything else that's behind me and I put it in a bag and I try to carry it, it's going to make my transition not as smooth. It's going to make it uncomfortable. It's going to feel like I'm carrying a burden with me. I think that's what transitions are about. You don't take burdens with you. You have to detach yourself, from something in your old and walking over that threshold into your new. So this was something that's been just, really heavy on my spirit lately. I wanted to talk about transitions. I wanted to know, comment in the chat. Who's out there going through a transition in your life right now? Is that transition uncomfortable? What does that feel like? What are you doing as the proper steps or actions during your process phase in order to make sure that your transition is smooth? What do you have in place? What are you doing? you know, uh, I think about transitioning. One of the biggest things that you have to do in order to even prepare is have courage, right? Transitions are not easy. It's not easy. You got to have the courage to want to make that step, that, get your thought process together and say, hey, I want to take my first step into my next. You got to have courage, right? And then you got to have preparation. And what does your preparation stage look like? And during this preparation stage, what type of steps and actions are you going to do? And then once you have decluttered and packed the things that you want to take with you, and that you decided to, you were finished and you're preparing to move, what's one of the most critical things that you got to do when you move? After you declutter and you pack up all your things, you got to clean up your mess. You got to clean up if you got an apartment, you got to clean up your apartment. If you got a house, you got to clean up your house. So, what type of mess do we need to clean up before we transition? What type of uh, dirt do we have hiding underneath our bed, or some clutter that we got hiding behind the shelf, or some things that we've been overlooking that we just never took the time to clean it up, but now it's time to make that transition, and so we need to clean it up. We have to clean up our mess. What's in our, place, our house, our home, our apartment that's unclean, that we need to clean, or clear it out and get it spick and span before we decide to move. That's another part of the process that I think a lot of people forget. Moving is not easy, right? But in order to transition, you got to have courage to declutter and pack some of the things that are necessities, and lastly, clean up your mess. And after you clean up your mess and you say, God, I'm ready for that door, God opens up a door. You take the courage to take that step, make a step over that threshold, and you're walking into your new. But then you remember, hey, I got to close the door behind me. So remember, transitioning, it involves changing from one state to another. And I don't mean like geographically. It could just be, you know, um, changing from, one, I don't care if it's next door to you, whatever that change may be, but it requires change. Transition requires change. It requires a process. And during that process, it requires preparation. And that preparation is steps and actions. And before you take those steps and actions, sometimes it requires courage, right? And most importantly, you need God through it all because God is going to open that door for you. He is a waymaker. And when he opens that door for you, you have to be prepared to get yourself in order, to get everything set in order and get ready to transition into your next, and be able to clean up your mess before you go. It's like going out, right? You're going to go somewhere new or go out on a date or whatever, right? You're not going to go anywhere dirty. You're not going to go anywhere stinking. You clean yourself up and you look your best before you go, right? So take the nuggets that you get from this video today. I want to talk about transitioning. I wanted to talk about how to prepare. What do you have to do? What are some of those steps? And preparing yourself in order to take that, leap of faith and walk through that door to your next. All right. So once again, thanks so much for tuning in to Together We Evolve, the men's group, TWE men's group. I'm your host, OJ Wellborn. Thank y'all for tuning in. I love y'all and I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.